What happens when one of Hollywood's most respected legends sits down with a talk show host who thinks he knows better than everyone else? In just 37 seconds, Bill Maher would make the comment that would destroy his reputation and turn Robert De Niro into the hero America needed. The studio lights blazed hot as Robert De Niro walked onto the set of Real Time with Bill Maher. The audience erupted in applause for the legendary actor. But something felt different tonight. Maher sat behind his desk with that smug smile he always wore. The one that made you feel like he was looking down at you even when you were sitting right across from him. "Welcome back to Real Time. I'm here with the great Robert De Niro," Maher began, his voice dripping with fake enthusiasm. "Bobby, thanks for being here tonight." De Niro shifted in his chair, already uncomfortable with the casual nickname. "It's Robert," he said quietly, his famous intensity simmering just beneath the surface. "Oh, sorry, Robert," Maher said with a dismissive wave. "Look, I gotta ask you about this political stuff you've been doing lately. All this activism, all these speeches. Don't you think actors should just stick to acting?" The audience murmured. This wasn't the usual softball interview they expected. De Niro's jaw tightened, but he kept his composure. "I think Americans should speak up when they see something wrong happening in their country." "But come on," Maher interrupted, leaning forward like a predator sensing weakness. "You're an actor. You pretend to be other people for a living. Why should anyone care what you think about real-world issues?" The disrespect was palpable. Here was one of the greatest actors of all time, a man who had given decades to his craft, being talked down to like some celebrity nobody. De Niro's eyes narrowed, but his voice remained steady. "I'm also a citizen. I have the same right as anyone else to speak my mind." Sure, Maher said, waving his hand again like he was swatting away an annoying fly. "But let's be honest here. You Hollywood types live in your bubbles. You don't know what real Americans are going through." The insult hit its mark. De Niro's face hardened. "Real Americans? What does that mean exactly, Bill?" "You know what I mean," Maher said with that condescending chuckle that made your skin crawl. "You live in mansions, you have assistants, you don't pump your own gas. How can you relate to the struggles of ordinary people?" The audience was getting uncomfortable now. This wasn't the entertaining back and forth they came for. This was something uglier. De Niro leaned forward, his voice getting lower and more dangerous. "I grew up in Little Italy. My father was a house painter. I know exactly what ordinary people go through." "That was 50 years ago, Bobby," Maher shot back, using the nickname again deliberately. "Things change. People change. Money changes people." "Don't call me Bobby," De Niro said firmly. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. "And don't lecture me about how money changes people when you're sitting here making millions telling jokes." Maher's smile faltered for just a moment, but then it came back even wider and nastier. "Hey, at least I'm honest about what I do. I don't pretend to be some voice of moral authority." "Neither do I," De Niro replied. "I just speak the truth as I see it." "The truth?" Maher laughed, and it was an ugly sound. "Your truth is whatever your publicist tells you will get you the most applause at award shows." The audience gasped. Even for Maher, this was crossing a line. De Niro's hands gripped the arms of his chair, his knuckles white. "You don't know anything about me, or what I believe." "I know enough," Maher said, his voice getting sharper. "I know you're another Hollywood liberal who thinks your opinion matters more than everyone else's, because you won some shiny statues." The contempt in his voice was unmistakable. Here was a man who had built his career on being edgy and controversial, but now he was just being cruel. De Niro's breathing became more labored, his famous temper starting to show through the cracks of his professional composure. "Those shiny statues represent a lifetime of work," De Niro said slowly. "Work that meant something to people. Work that told important stories." "Oh, please," Maher scoffed. "Half your movies are about gangsters shooting each other. What important stories are you telling there?" The dismissal of his entire career, his art, his life's work, hung in the air like poison gas. The audience was dead silent now, sensing that something terrible was about to happen. De Niro's face was a mask of controlled rage, his eyes burning with an intensity that had made him famous in films like Taxi Driver and Goodfellas. "You want to talk about my movies?" De Niro said, his voice dropping to that dangerous whisper that every moviegoer recognized. "Let's talk about what they really mean. Taxi Driver wasn't about violence. It was about isolation, about what happens when society abandons people." Maher rolled his eyes theatrically. "Oh, here we go with the deep artistic analysis. It's a movie about a crazy guy with a gun. Bobby, don't make it more than it is." The third time with that nickname, De Niro's jaw muscles twitched. The Godfather was about family, about loyalty, about the American dream corrupted by greed. Goodfellas showed the emptiness behind the glamour of crime. You're really gonna sit there and tell me gangster movies have deep meaning? Maher laughed that ugly laugh again. Come on, you shot people on screen and got paid millions for it. Don't dress it up as Shakespeare. The audience was squirming in their seats now. This wasn't entertainment anymore. This was character assassination happening live on television. De Niro's hands were shaking slightly. Whether from age or rage, it was impossible to tell. Those films explored the human condition, De Niro said through gritted teeth. They showed the consequences of violence, the price of choosing the wrong path. The human condition, Maher repeated mockingly. Listen to yourself. You sound like every pretentious film student who ever lived. It's not that deep, buddy. The word buddy landed like a slap across the face. De Niro's eyes flashed dangerously. Don't talk down to me like I'm some kid. Then don't act like your movies changed the world, Maher shot back. You entertain people. That's it. That's all any of us do in this business. Some of us try to do more than that, De Niro said quietly. Some of us try to use our platform responsibly. Responsibly? Maher's voice went up an octave. You think lecturing people about politics is responsible? You think telling half the country they're stupid is responsible? I never called anyone stupid, De Niro said firmly. I criticize policies and actions, not people. Same difference, Maher waved dismissively. You Hollywood elites are all the same. You think because you can memorize lines and hit your marks, that makes you experts on everything else. The phrase Hollywood elites dripped with venom. It was clear that Maher saw himself as different, as better somehow. Even though he lived the same privileged life he was criticizing, De Niro's breathing was getting heavier, his legendary self-control beginning to crack. I've lived through a lot of history, De Niro said slowly. I've seen this country change in ways that worry me. I have a right to speak about that. You have the right, Maher agreed with fake magnanimity. But that doesn't mean anyone should listen. That doesn't mean your opinion is worth more than the guy pumping gas or flipping burgers. I never said it was, De Niro replied, but I'm not going to stay silent just because it makes some people uncomfortable. Uncomfortable? Maher leaned back in his chair, his smile turning cruel. Bobby, you don't make people uncomfortable. You make them roll their eyes. You're like that uncle at Thanksgiving who won't shut up about politics. The personal attack hit home. De Niro's face flushed red, his hands gripping the chair arms even tighter. The comparison to an annoying relative was designed to diminish him, to make him seem pathetic and irrelevant. At least I stand for something, De Niro said, his voice getting louder. At least I'm not sitting here making jokes while the world burns. The world burns? Maher threw his head back and laughed. See, this is what I'm talking about. Everything is the end of the world with you people. Everything is a crisis. Everything is the most important thing ever. Maybe because some things actually are important, De Niro fired back. Maybe because some of us actually care about more than just getting laughs. Oh, you care, Maher said sarcastically. You care so much. You care from your private jet and your gated community. You care while your accountant finds new tax shelters. Very touching, Bobby. The hypocrisy was staggering. Here was Maher, who lived the exact same lifestyle he was mocking, acting like he was somehow more authentic, more real. De Niro's face was a study in barely contained fury. You know what your problem is? De Niro said, his voice shaking with emotion. You think being cynical makes you smart. You think tearing people down makes you clever. I think being honest makes me useful, Maher replied coldly. Something this town could use more of. Honest? De Niro's voice cracked like a whip. You want honest? Here's honest. You're a bitter man who makes his living mocking people who actually try to make a difference. The gloves were off now. The professional courtesy, the show business politeness, all of it was gone. This was raw, personal, and getting uglier by the second. Maher's face darkened at the accusation. The mask of smug superiority slipped for just a moment, revealing something uglier underneath. Bitter? I'm realistic. I see through the bullshit that everyone else buys into. You see through nothing, De Niro shot back, his voice rising. You just tear everything down because it's easier than building anything up. At least I don't pretend to be something I'm not, Maher snarled. At least I don't wrap myself in false righteousness. False? De Niro was on his feet now, towering over the desk. There's nothing false about caring. There's nothing false about trying to use whatever influence you have for good. Influence? Maher laughed bitterly. You think you have influence? You think anyone under 30 even knows who you are anymore? You're a relic, Bobby. A museum piece. The cruelty of it took everyone's breath away. Here was a man systematically destroying a legend, piece by piece, for no reason other than his own twisted entertainment. De Niro stood there, chest heaving, looking like he might reach across that desk and show Maher exactly what a taxi driver could do. "I may be getting older," De Niro said through clenched teeth, "but at least I earned my place. At least I created something that mattered." "Created?" Maher's voice turned venomous. "You didn't create anything. You read words other people wrote. You stood where other people told you to stand. You're nothing but a puppet who got famous." The audience gasped audibly. Even the cameras seemed to recoil from the sheer malice in Maher's words. This wasn't comedy anymore. This wasn't even argument. This was pure, calculated destruction. De Niro's hands were shaking openly now, his whole body vibrating with suppressed rage. "You have no idea what you're talking about. No idea what it takes to do what I do. What you do." Maher stood up now too, matching De Niro's energy. "What you do is play pretend for a living. What you do is memorize lines and collect paychecks. Don't act like you're curing cancer." "And what do you do?" De Niro roared. "What do you contribute to the world besides poison and negativity?" "I tell the truth," Maher yelled back. "I call out the phonies and the frauds. People like you who think their celebrity makes them important." "Important?" De Niro's voice cracked with emotion. "You want to know what's important? Important is the letters I get from people who say my work helped them through dark times. Important is the young actors who tell me I inspired them to pursue their dreams." "Oh, spare me the sentiment," Maher sneered. "Save it for your acceptance speech." That was it. That was the moment. The final straw that broke the back of De Niro's legendary patience. His face went from red to white. His eyes became laser-focused. And when he spoke, his voice carried the weight of every tough guy he'd ever played. "You know what, Bill? You're everything that's wrong with this business. You're everything that's wrong with this country. You take people's dreams and you twist them into jokes. You take their hopes and you turn them into punchlines." "That's what I do," Maher said with pride. "I deflate the overinflated. I bring people back down to earth." "No," De Niro said quietly, and the sudden calm in his voice was more terrifying than his anger had been. "What you do is spread misery. What you do is make people cynical and hopeless. What you do is poison." The word hung in the air like a curse. Maher's face twisted into something ugly, something that showed his true nature finally breaking through the comedian's mask. "You sanctimonious piece of garbage," Maher hissed. "You self-righteous has been. Nobody cares what you think anymore. Nobody wants to hear from you." "That's where you're wrong," De Niro said, his voice steady as steel. "People do want to hear from me. That's why I'm here. That's why you invited me. Because deep down, you know I matter, and you don't." The truth of it hit Maher like a physical blow. His whole body recoiled, his face contorting with rage and humiliation. This was the moment his career would be defined by. This was the 37 seconds that would live forever. "Get out," Maher whispered. "Get out of my studio." "Your studio?" De Niro laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. "This isn't your studio. This isn't your show. This is just another platform for you to spread your bitterness from." "I said get out," Maher screamed, his voice cracking like a teenage boy's. De Niro looked at him with something that might have been pity. "You know what the saddest part is, Bill? You could have been something. You had talent once. But you chose to be small instead of great. You chose to tear down instead of build up." With that, Robert De Niro walked off the set, leaving Bill Maher standing there, exposed for what he truly was. His reputation in ruins, his credibility shattered. The legend had spoken his truth, and the truth had set him free.